The Book of Honey, by Isadora Rorschach, Chapter 21, Roller Coaster of Emotions. William, for the rest of the walk through the southern fields we silently made our way to the eastern gate. Past the old rubbish barn, Honey seemed to be eyeballing it. There were cows and sheep in the distance. We crossed the road that leads up to the house, and another trail that was closer to the eastern side of the forest. We decided the tour of the house could wait till later. When we get back to the house, Honey goes upstairs. I go to grab my laptop and set myself up in the living room, and I start going over some of my reports. It is a good hour before I see Honey. Honey comes down with her duffel bag and goes to the outdoor kitchen. At first, I don't pay any attention and focus on work. Then I started to smell smoke. I wait 5 seconds, but she says nothing, so I let out a sigh. I walk back to the patio, and she had built herself a fire. I find her crouching over one of the fire pits. I ask Honey, "What are you doing?" She tells me, "Burning some stuff." I ask, "Why?" When she tells me, she rolls her eyes and takes a breath. "There is some stuff in this bag that needs to be burned." I stood there with my curiosity hanging out. It must have been pretty loud when she asked me, "William, do you want to know what's in my bag?" I say to her honestly, "Yes, I do. I carried that thing all the way from evidence and told people that it was my gym bag. It's heavy." She shrugs at me. "This is 12 years of stuff that has been around the world with me. In fact, I think I'm going to retire Stella. She is past her prime." I bring over a table for her and some chairs. She started pulling things out: clothes, shoes, a leather pouch she opened to reveal the chain mail she talked about. It was so fine. The gloves were brightly colored black, gold and silver. If I didn't know better, I would swear that this was silk, or lace. Honey tells me, "That was my inspiration behind them. I didn't need them to be costume, and I would have hated them if they were big and bulky. Look at the links, they're small but doubled up, making them sturdy and usable. My granddad was a collector. I have it in the study upstairs." She asked me, "You have old stuff?" She had an intriguing look on her face. I tell Honey, "We're in England, of course I have chain mail." She laughed at that and kept pulling things out: power tools, first aid kit, batteries, torches, and candles. So many rolls of tape, bottles of glue, and zip ties. Squares that look like folded paper. When she abruptly says, "Well, damn, they've cracked at the folds. I'm going to have to make new ones." I asked, "What are those?" She tells me, "These are body pads I made, carbon fiber." I say, "Yeah, lightweight armor is made from it." She explains to me, "This is the same concept made from thick layers of paper and melted plastic. I make a cast using a thin piece of cotton as the liner, cutting out the sheets, and brushing plastic mix with tree sap. I wear them under my clothes." She tosses the cracked pads into the fire. Next came out a dangerous-looking set of things. There are spikes and leather straps, headband, rings, small steel plates, and some spiky plates that scarily enough look like elbow and knee pads. Almost everything was sharpened to a point or had a razor's edge to it. "What the hell is all of this, Honey?" This time she was annoyed at me, rolling her amber eyes. "Look, William, I am a trick fighter, and this is my bag of tricks. These are hair spikes I put in to keep from getting my hair pulled, and..." She pulled out a small bottle of clear liquid. "I brushed this on the spikes." I ask, "What is it?" Honey tells me, "It's an antihistamine." I give her a look. Like the stuff you take for allergies. She nods. Yep, but this stuff is about 10 times more powerful than over the counter. I headbutt people or wear a spike in my gloves. With a couple of pricks your adrenaline spikes and drops. It makes people tired and slow. The metal plates are for my hands. They fit into the pockets in my chainmail to give me extra weight behind each swing. The small rings are knuckle protectors, and the elbow and knee plates are for arm. At first, I was concerned. It looked like she was shaking. But I see Honey had stopped to cover her mouth. She begins to laugh. The laughing is so uncontrollable that she turns her back to keep me from seeing. It becomes so bad that I hear her. Ha, ha, ha. It takes her a minute to get herself under control. She has to hold onto a chair so she could stop and breathe. I ask her, "What is so funny?" Honey could verily say, "It's really hard to tell you this. I have a certain kind of reputation inside the ring. I never meant to make it a thing. With multiple successes it stuck around. As a cod smasher, nutcracker, and ball buster." She says that last part quietly. I let the silence hang there for a moment. That sounds exactly like what it is. Honey said very sharply. "Yep." I say very soberly. "I don't see why you're laughing so hard." She tells me, "That's not the worst part." I say, "There's a worst part?" She nods at me. I see her face is red. She hasn't laughed that much in all the time I've seen her. I know that I'm going to regret this, but the sound of her laughter was both wonderful and disturbing. I wanted to see how far she was willing to let me push before she shuts down on me again. I sigh and speak. "Just tell me, honey." She asks me, "Are you sure?" I say honestly, "No, but I must know what is making you convulse all over yourself." Slowly Honey confesses to me. I can tell just by looking how expensive a guy's cod piece is. After a while I took it as a personal challenge when someone stepped into a ring thinking they were untouchable because of how much money they spent on their defenses. So, I developed my elbow and knee pads with the sole purpose of smashing cod pieces. I call them my battering rams. This was another moment. Humor was going to be darker while I was here in this place with Honey. Not flinching every time she brings up something she had survived on is going to be very important to her and me. I shake my head. "I've told you before that you are borderline genius and madness. This is one of those moments when I can't tell which line you've just crossed." Honey finally got a grip and gives me a smile that sends shivers up my spine. Honey says, "William, I don't know why that was so funny. But your reaction may have something to do with it." I asked her a question to change the subject. "Is there anything else in that bag?" She stops laughing after some time and tells me, "Yep, 2 things, one of my best kept secrets and a piece of trash I can't wait to get rid of. Let me show you my secret. You just saw my madness, let me show you the genius, it's much more awesome." We both take a seat at the table. She pulled a garment bag out of the duffel and tossed it straight onto the fire. The only thing she says is, "Don't ask." That was all I needed not to pry. Honey zipped up the bag and flipped it over. The bottom seemed like a solid piece of rubber. But then she pressed on 2 of the screws and the whole thing popped off the bottom. It was a square the size of a large chessboard. It was 2 inches thick all the way around it. A metallic silver color, no lines, holes, or screws, it was seamless. Honey hands it to me. It is really heavy. I ask her, "What is this?" She answers. It's a box. I ask, perplexed. How? It seems solid. She picks up her screwdriver out of a case. Started running it along the edges. 4 flaps of metal pop out like tabs. Pulling the flaps in different directions. I hear a pop and clicks of something releasing. The top of the box is revealed. When she opened it, inside were a bunch of objects, smaller boxes just like this one we were looking at, and other things wrapped in plastic. Looking closely at each object. Some of these are cell phones. Yep, all the ones that I've used or taken from others. In fact, some of these I need to give Uncle Bruce when he gets back, because I don't want them, but I also can't destroy them. Each one is labeled and had where and how I got it. I asked her. Did you make this thing, honey? She nods. Yes, I did. I started off making small ones at first. This one I made when I was about 12. It was a lot of time in the dark with nothing to do. I was blown away. The craftsmanship was so perfect that I couldn't believe what I was holding was even real. If you don't want to be a fighter, you could easily become an engineer, because this is truly brilliant. I start asking her questions as I picked up some of the things. How did you get the plastic to wrap like that on the phones? She says. Hair dryer. I asked. What is this one that's not a phone? She picks it up and says. That is my treasure box. I haven't opened it for a while. I have a few. But this one always stays on me. Do you want to see what's in it? Of course, I do, but I didn't want to be too nosy. So, I say to her. Only if you don't mind. She says to me in a reassuring tone. I don't mind. I'm excited to see it. She picks up the screwdriver. Runs it around the edges just like the first. When she popped open the lid on this one, it slides up, revealing a locket. Setting in the box in a cut just the right shape for it. It wasn't like most lockets in the shape of a heart or circle, it was a little black and gold bee. Picking it up by the chain. Then she holds it out to me. I delicately take it out of her hand to look at it. On the front I read. To my honeybee, happy birthday, Natalie, love your Papa Dommy. I look at her. Go ahead. She says it with a whisper. I opened it up. Inside 2 pictures were inside. One was a man that had Honey's amber eyes and same golden hair. He was holding a small girl I could recognize as Honey, maybe 3 or so. The man was jacked. The other side had a couple holding the same small girl. The younger man had the same features as the little girl and the older man in the first photo. He was maybe in his late 20s, he and the woman in the photo had the look of sturdy people. Next to him was a dark-haired beauty, who looked precisely like Honey except for her hair and eyes. She was a bit taller by her look. I say to Honey as I hand her back the locket. Let me say you come for the most beautiful family of gladiators I have ever seen. This makes her smile and laugh. You see, William, they are the reason I want to become a fighter. My mama Celestia Atsu Ledger was a small-time MMA fighter, and my daddy Nicholas Ledger was a rising star, and even my papa Dominic was a Marine. It's in my blood so deep. I went to every one of daddy's fights from the time I was born. It was the most exciting thing to me. I asked Honey. How do you remember all of this? Pointing to her temple, she tells me. Some of this is stuff I learned after they were gone. Mostly I always remember everything, William. It's like a movie. I play the images in my head over and over. At first, it's like seeing without understanding. The more I play it in my head, details, colors, smells jump at me. Stuff goes into my head and it doesn't leave. No detail is too big or too small. I see the big picture and all the parts that make it work. My papa taught me to do memory exercises when I went to bed and when I wake up. I could tell you what my last birthday cake tasted like. What Honey was saying was both fantastic and terrifying. I could not imagine what it was like not to be able to forget things. I asked Honey without thinking. What kind of cake was it, Honey? Honey stops to look at me. Honey sits back and she closed her eyes. Hands in her lap, taking a deep breath, Honey says clearly. I never liked vanilla or chocolate, but Mama made spiced breads. It was a cinnamon and orange blossom spiced cake. The frosting was a spiced orange and pineapple cream cheese. Papa Dommy was so excited to bring it into me, he and my daddy fought over it. I could hear them all talking in the kitchen. Till my mama handed it to my daddy, Papa Dommy got to light the candles. I was sitting in the dark when they walked out of the kitchen. They sang me happy birthday, my daddy, and Papa Dommy were so bad. That cake was spicy and sweet. I loved it. I was captured and mesmerized, sitting utterly still, almost holding my breath. I could imagine myself sitting in the dark watching Honey's family celebrate. I knew that wasn't all. There was a trembling in her voice the more she talked. I asked her, "What are you feeling now?" Tears falling slowly from her eyes. Honey tells me, very frustrated. Like a damn mess, William, I can't figure out which feeling to feel first. Like a wave is about to swallow me. It's all about to crash down on me. I didn't get to mourn them. People don't know I lived through it that day. How because of my mama I was saved without even a scratch, or all that my daddy could do was ask if I was okay. The more Honey talked, the more she was falling apart. She looks up at me. William, I don't understand how all that love just disappeared. They were the strongest people in the world. There was nothing they couldn't do. They loved me and protected me so much. Now I am all that is left of them. No one even knows I'm still alive. A silence of frustration and sadness froze her in place as tears just fell one after another. I let out a sigh, thinking what I could do or give her, then I stand and offer her my hand. Come with me, let's leave this here. Let me show you something. She nods and lets me pull her to her feet. Hand in hand we walk up the stairs. I haven't shown you the best place in this house. We stop at the second floor. Straight across the hallway is the study. A brown-paneled ornate room, carved shelves and furniture. Its walls are covered with books and knickknacks. This room was a warm and inviting place to sit down and read. I set her on a couch, then hand her a book. When my feelings are crushing me, and I am overwhelmed by things, I like to read. It clears my head, and these pages are filled with all kinds of answers. This place reminds me of my granddad. It brings me peace. I say to her, Honey, you now have all the time in the world to figure out what you want to feel. One at a time or all at once. The best thing about books is they don't judge you, they only want to tell you a story. They are worlds to escape to, when this one is a little too much. This one is my favorite one. She reads it out loud. Great Expectations. I nod and say, it's about a boy named Pip, an orphan that gains everything but struggles to fit into what he has gained. Sounds like something I've heard pretty recently. I give her a look. She gives me a Beck eyebrow raise. I say to her, damn, it's scary how good you are at that. She laughs and I'm relieved. Plus, you have the benefit of actually being in Britain. I can read you any of the classics, doing all of the accents pretty accurately. She burst out laughing and rolling her eyes so sarcastically. "William, I swear you're so full of it." She takes a few deep breaths. "Today was a roller coaster of things. You must be exhausted dealing with me." I shake my head and speak. "Some of it has been testing, but I don't seem to mind it. So, rest, read and take your mind off it. I will be right back to keep you company." She whispers. "All right, William." I leave grabbing a box and put all her things in it. I take them to her room. By the time I got back, she had fallen asleep on the couch. I cover her up and get myself back to work, keeping an eye on her.